bacon time. Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to Dads with Bacon, talking sports. It is August 10th, 2023. We are in the sixth week of our way too early predictions for the NFL. So today we're going to be talking about the NFC South, the riveting NFC South, uh, where there might be no teams that really deserve to be in the playoffs, but somebody will. Anyway, so we're going to talk about that today. We're going to talk about the college football, what's going on right now, and just kind of, we're not going to discuss it real super long, but talk about the realignment and the craziness that happened just this past Friday since our last show. So talk about that. We're going to recap the women's, the United States disappointment in the Women's World Cup. And we are also going to discuss SummerSlam. We're going to recap that. I know TJ has some thoughts on it. I believe he and his wife watched it and weren't real happy. So we'll have to get some more details about that. As well as I believe we will be getting an appearance from Ben, who is hunkered down in Hawaii right now with all those wildfires that are absolutely awful over there. So hopefully he's safe, and he's going to check in with us and kind of talk a little bit about everything we're going to talk about. So, and then at the end of the show, at the very end, we're going to wrap up with a question. So for those of you that are watching this at home, if you want to chime in, I was going to put it on the group chat today. I totally forgot. With the Hall of Fame induction ceremony being this past Saturday, and I could have even thrown it out last Thursday, but I didn't. The question for today is, what player or players or coaches do you feel should be in the Pro Football Hall of Fame that are not? So we'll throw ours out there at the end of the show. And so now we're bringing Troy, bringing TJ.
What's up, guys?
How are you guys doing?
Doing great.
All right.
Yeah, I'm doing phenomenal with like 2 hours of sleep in the past couple of days.
Well, you've had a busy week of baseball, haven't you?
Oh man, it's been amazing week of baseball. I'm not even busy. I'm so happy.
Well, yeah. So why don't we, before we get into the NFC South here, because I mean, I don't think anyone's really, chomping at the bit here to get talking about the NFC South. But why don't you tell us a little bit about, what you went to 2 games, right?
So 3 games in 5 days.
Oh, jeez.
Okay.
So
wow.
It started out Friday. We went to the Mets and the Orioles. We got to see Dean Kramer start, and it was like a big. So our local radio station here is 98 Rock, and they had Rock the Yard. So it was like, I think it was like $40 to get in. You get like $20 in. Well, my boss has season tickets for the O's, and he was like, "Hey, nobody is taking this game. Who wants it?" And I was like, "Screw it. It's a Friday night. Let's take the family, have some fun." So I took my brother. It's actually his very first MLB game on Friday at Camden Yards. So it couldn't have been a better venue to take him to. And the O's won, and we saw some fireworks. And then on Tuesday, we were at the Astros-Orioles games. Same seats. Took my boss's seats again. And we watched Kyle Tucker's Grand Slam live. And I'm not going to lie to you, dude. I started crying like a little bitch I am that we started winning. Dude, from the first inning to about the 8th, dude, I was pissed. I was, trying not to drink as much beer as I really wanted to drown my sorrows. And I looked at this lady who was next to me and I said, "Listen," I was like, "Kyle Tucker's going to hit a home run. Like, he's Mr. Clutch for us." And she goes, "No, he's not." And I said, "Yeah, he's going to hit that home run." I said, it may not be a grand slam. I was like, if it's a grand slam, awesome. If not, I was like, whatever. So sure enough, he comes up, bases are loaded, grand slams it. And she looks at me and she goes, "So what's the winning lottery numbers for tonight as well?" So we saw that comeback win by the Astros on Tuesday, which was amazing to watch in person, and just to see the highlights of it just still gives me chills. And then yesterday, I had a little mother-son date. We call it mommy-son date, and I haven't hung out with my mom in months, it seems like. And we went to the Astros game last night, and we watched the Astros win 8-2. And it was fun hanging out, with with your mom and, just parents in general, because you never know when it's going to be the last time you see them. So I cherish those moments. Plus, I'm a diehard Astros fan. And my grandfather playing for the Astros in the 60s, anytime they come around, I always go.
Sure. Well, that's cool. That's cool. So, yeah, I will say this. Oh, okay. We're gonna have Ben's hopping on here. Hey, Ben, how's it going?
Hey guys, how's it going? Hey, well, that just for TJ to get that Orioles hat on too to make sure he sees a full effect.
But who won the series?
That's very fair. That's very fair.
So, how are things going in Hawaii? Where are you in relation to all the fires?
Kind of between them, if that makes sense.
Oh, so that's awesome.
Best place to be.
Yeah, it's so the big ones were in Lahaina, which is on the west shore of Maui.
Yeah,
and that was like destroyed heavily. There were some that are also out onto the eastern mountains as well, but those were much smaller in the grand scheme. So we're kind of in between. We're kind of dead center of the island where we're staying.
Okay. Well, because you had mentioned everything that all the plans that you guys had for today had gotten canceled. Is it just because is there a lot of smoke there, I'm assuming, and that's why?
Well, no. So we were supposed to do Road to Hana today, which is actually a tour around the east side of the island. It's has like 260 some like switchbacks and 51 lane bridges and all this other crazy stuff.
Oh my god!
But because of all this, the stuff going on, a tree fell over across the highway. So one highway going through this whole thing. So we were canceled today because there's a tree blocking the road.
Ugh.
So, but emergency services are obviously dedicated to more pressing matters than
a
tree in the road.
Course.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, no one for a good snorkel this morning, and then kind of bummed around. We made the best of the day anyway, and hey, we're still in Hawaii. We can't really complain.
Yeah.
But we fly out tomorrow night. So, good Lord willing, anyway, we fly out tomorrow night.
How pretty good weather, other than the fire stuff there, though. Pretty good weather.
Yeah, it's one of those things that's the nicest hot place I've ever been. You have 85 plus every day, but it feels like mid 70s. It's kind of just that. I can honestly say it's better than Wisconsin's summer, which is not many places.
You have the nice ocean breeze going, right?
Always, yeah, constant breeze, which is just phenomenal.
Awesome.
Nice.
So stay safe out there, and then hopefully everything goes well on your way home.
Yeah,
yes, thank you.
For sure. Okay, well here, why don't you we'll get going right away then into the NFC South, and that's who we're talking about today. I know you're probably thinking, I'm really glad I hopped on this one for this exciting division. So NFC South, we'll just kind of quickly recap. Oh,
Aaron, can I butt in there just a second?
Yeah.
I don't know how much time Ben has with us tonight, so if we want to touch on World Cup and WrestleMania while we have him, might be the time. Or not, I'm sorry, SummerSlam. You got me saying WrestleMania now. Thanks, Aaron.
Okay, well, yeah, we could start with that then. Yeah,
I don't know. That's up to you, Ben. I don't know how much time you have, so.
Yeah, honestly, I didn't watch SummerSlam yet. I'm kind of saving that for the flight back home, so I am flying blind there.
Okay, well, give us your thoughts on the Women's World Cup, because I know you follow it a lot more than I think any of us probably do. I know for sure me. So what were your thoughts?
Well, seeing both the Americans and the Germans bounce as early as they were is really surprising, of course. Yeah. And then just the overall, watching the Americans play the entire tournament, we said a couple of weeks ago, they didn't finish. All these matches, they didn't finish. You look at the Vietnam match, even scoring 3 goals was not good enough. And that proved to be the case later on, too, than going even to the match with Sweden. They had their chances. They just choked when they had their eye on the goal. They just couldn't finish the job. So I think questioning their efforts the wrong side.
Yeah, Ben, even look at the shootout against Sweden. Like, even they couldn't even hit the net then. Like, it was crazy.
Well, exactly. And it's telling us between the ears. They got in their own head. Something hit them mentally that just didn't quite come together. I think about like great hitters that go through slumps. It's the same problem. You're great, but you just get something between the ears that stops what you want to do, and you just can't do it. Yep. I mean, it's the yips. The whole team got the yips at the same time. It felt like. Yeah,
you're right. It did. That's exactly what it felt like.
But overall, the tournament's still fun to watch. You still have a lot of great teams left to cheer for and left to kind of enjoy what they do. I think that the Sweden-Japan matchup is really the one that I was looking forward to the most too. So that's pretty cool matchup.
Is that one tomorrow night?
That sounds correct. I don't
I think
remember now.
I think it's tomorrow night. Spain and Netherlands are on right now, and Spain actually just had a goal that got called back. So.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's kind of it's still definitely Americans were kind of sore losers more often than not. When we're out of the picture, we stop watching more than we should. But hopefully, people will still give the the beautiful game its flowers here and watch these women do what they do, and it's just a phenomenal thing to watch. But yeah, what were you guys? watching the matches so far? I mean, I'm sure you're watching a little bit.
I'm watching. Now. I'm trying to keep up with the end of it here to talk about it a little bit. But I watched, like I was saying, I didn't really watch the Americans game. I watched the highlights and stuff because I wasn't staying up getting up that early to watch it. I'm not crazy like Marco.
Who is though? Really? I
mean, but yeah, I mean, I think Japan-Sweden is going to be phenomenal to watch. Mm-hmm. I really do. I think that's going to be a great one. I think that top half of I don't know the way the bracket's laid out. Is that the way it's played? Like they don't reseed it all, right? Okay. Right. I really think whoever wins that top half of the bracket between Japan, Sweden, Spain, and Netherlands, I think those are the teams to beat, honestly. So
the one I'll throw the caveat in there for England. I mean, the Lionesses have that pressure on them. For England has been hungry for a cup for so long on both men and women's sides. That they're set up very well right now where they could make that run and give themselves a shot to, bring home the glory to England. So I wouldn't count them out just yet, but to your point, there's a lot of class in that top half of the bracket for sure.
And you got to wonder how much home court or whatever they call home pitch advantage might be here for Australia, right?
It's definitely playing a factor. Yeah, definitely. I mean, you have your home crowd behind you.
Yep.
I mean, you see it in any sport when you have a little bit of energy going. Last week at the CrossFit Games in Madison, and you'd see the athletes when they get that cheer going behind them. All of a sudden, this world class athlete goes from being good to great, just with a little bit of extra oomph gets put in their step, and it is a big deal.
So I guess we'll see. Like I said, I guess this is the first game of the quarterfinals here. We got Spain and Netherlands, and they're at the 45-minute mark, or almost at halftime here.
Okay.
So we'll see what happens, but they're all tied up 0-0 right now. So
get back to the house and turn it on. That's awesome.
Well, hey guys, why don't we? My wife's not feeling real well upstairs, so I gotta get going here. But why don't we at least do the NFC South before I go?
Okay.
And then we'll throw that out there and kind of take it from there. I mean, unless Troy, unless you would want to take over. Otherwise, we could just do a little bit shorter of a show today.
I mean, it doesn't matter. We can hang on a little bit. What else was on the agenda other than the NFC South? We were going to talk
NFC South, talk a little bit college football.
But I don't know if we want to touch on SummerSlam.
Well,
maybe we'll wait till next week now. So
we'll wait till next week when Ben has a chance to watch it. But
yeah,
I mean, we were going to talk about a little college football and what was going on there too.
Yeah.
But have you had a chance to follow that, Ben, at all or not?
Oh, every piece has been like I get my phone blown up. From every corner of the map about what's going on. I'm loving it. It's the chaos is definitely interesting to say the least.
Well, yeah, and that's what I thought about it, and I've heard a lot because I've listened to a lot of college football podcasts and of course all the purists are just like, oh, it's terrible, and I'm like, I don't know. I mean, you knew it was going to happen. You know that these schools have to do something, especially if you want NIL and I mean the money is they need the money and so if the Pac-12 hadn't had their head up their what's for forever. I mean, it seemed like they just kind of sat around waiting for this whole deal to work out some kind of a TV deal, and by the time they had something kind of figured out, all these schools were like, well, hey, if the Big Ten comes calling, we're going. It was like, go ahead.
Can I just say, and this sounds so trivial to this whole situation right now, but like we got to do something with these names at this point. This is so stupid. Like the Big Ten is now 46 teams. Yeah. The Pac-12 is 4 teams. Like what is happening here? Like,
well, what was funny is I listened, and this hasn't. I haven't heard anything officially on this, but I think it was. When they were talking about it today, it was kind of the rumors right now are that the ACC is going to try to get Cal and Stanford, and possibly SMU. And they were talking about it like, why, from a marketing standpoint, how do you explain to fans who are more casual fans, like when they look at it and go, well, wait a minute, that's the Atlantic Coast Conference, and you have Stanford and Cal who are on the Pacific. Like, I mean, for us, it really doesn't matter because we follow it more. I mean, it's not, but for the casual fan, from a marketing standpoint, it's kind of a mess. But
why are the Cowboys in the NFC East?
True, very true. I mean, that's and there. Well, that was just like for years, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers were in the when the NFC was a NFC Central, I think is what it was called.
It was a Central.
So that didn't make any sense either. But I just and I guess the ones I was listening to today it was the CBS Sports do like a Cover 3 podcast, and they were talking about that whole thing with the ACC. They did mention, they said, well, they're like that Cal and Stanford didn't make a lot of sense to them, except, if you want to get the ACC in California, if you want give people a reason to subscribe to the ACC network out there, that would make some sense. But they said,
which this is all about though, from the beginning.
Well, yeah,
sorry.
Yeah, exactly. But they said from a competitive standpoint, they liked SMU. And they liked, they thought Tulane would be a good one because then you're kind of getting into Louisiana market, even though you'd be competing against LSU. But I mean, still in terms of recruiting and everything else, so.
Can I ask a question out of ignorance? And I think, Ben, you'll probably know this answer for sure. I'm assuming this is for all sports. This isn't just football, right?
Yeah, that's the thing. Even the coaches are talking about now. The football guys are kind of coming to the aid of the other departments because for football, like, well, they know they're fine. They said, go ahead and make us different but for the softball teams, for the baseball teams, for basketball, these guys who are traveling nonstop, you're completely destroying the student athlete because they cannot even think to be academic during those semesters when they're active. Because now they're going to be on the road, literally taking 4-hour flights to go play a game, maybe 2. It's it's going to be chaos.
Yeah. So, well, and then Stanky, the I can't remember his first name. Was it Greg from the commissioner of the SEC came out, I think earlier in the week and kind of threw a grenade in the whole thing by bringing up how, hey, we may have to readdress the whole 12-team playoff because back when they all agreed to it, there were 10 conferences and there were still, the whole idea was, okay, give the Power 5 conferences champions the automatic bid, and then give a 6th conference champion kind of an at-large bid basically from one of the weaker conferences. And now he's saying, well, that was when the Pac-12 was still, a full conference. He's like, we don't even know what it's going to be like. So that was interesting.
That's a good point, Aaron. And I wonder if that could start diminishing the regular season now too, because I mean, you're going to be taking the top 3 teams out of the Power 5 conferences or Power 4 or whatever's going to be left at the point. I don't know. And then what? Does the championship game of that conference really mean anything at that point? Probably not, because they're probably both going to be in the playoffs anyway,
Yeah, and from what I understand, it would just be a first round bye. I mean, that's what it would be. So the top 4 teams who would all be conference champions would get a first round bye. So that would be kind of a big deal too, especially because you're adding a couple more games to this college football season, whereas they're used to playing 12 or 13. But okay, why don't we get to well, Ben, did you want to add anything or not? I can't tell if he's frozen.
I think he's frozen.
I think he's frozen.
Oh, there he is.
Oh, there he is. Okay.
I think.
You got us, Ben?
Freaking Aaron Rodgers got to him.
Yeah. Have you watched, by the way, have you had a chance to check out Hard Knocks?
You mean Aaron Rodgers?
Yeah.
You mean the Aaron Rodgers documentary?
Yeah. I watched the first episode and my wife looked at me and she, after the first 10 minutes, she's like, I can't watch this, Aaron. I can't do it. And I'm like, I don't know. I mean, it was entertaining to me, but yeah, it kind of felt like they were doing the Aaron Rodgers, what the whole Last Dance documentary was for Jordan.
They're pushing out a narrative. That's exactly what they're doing right now. They're pushing out a narrative. They want to try to sell Aaron Rodgers to the Jets. And everybody who knows Aaron Rodgers, like that was a facade. That's not Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah. Well, and what was interesting is watching Robert Saleh try to be like, like they asked him, they're like, have you ever, I think the question was something like, what is it like, or how does it feel? Oh, Liz is trying to distract Ben over there. How does it feel to have Aaron Rodgers at quarterback, or something like that? And he was like, well, I think it's safe to say I've never had a quarterback like Aaron Rodgers as my head, as my starting quarterback. And I'm like, so you're saying Zach Wilson's not Aaron Rodgers? Come on.
Yeah, I mean, really, like, dude, you've only been, what is this, his second or first year?
No,
Or third
this
year?
is third. I think it's third.
This is his third.
I believe
Okay,
it's
so
third,
he had
yeah.
Zach Wilson both his first 2 years, and Mike White, is sprinkled in here and there.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
That's not even a fair comparison at all. So,
yeah. All right, let's do the NFC South. I don't. Hopefully Ben can hear us. Like I said, I don't. He's kind of cutting in and out there. So, Ben, if you can hear us, let us know. So NFC South, we've got. Okay, last year, let's just kind of recap real quick. We had Tampa Bay winning at 8-9, and then you had 3 teams at 7-10: Carolina, New Orleans, and Atlanta. So, like I said, it's just a riveting division right there. But so TJ, why don't we just start with you, and then Troy, you can give your predictions. What are your thoughts on the NFC South, TJ?
Honestly, I'm gonna keep it nice and sweet, short, everything. I'm kind of intrigued to see how Carolina can do with Bryce Young. I mean, he's a small guy. I think he's like only 5'11", like barely scraping 200 pounds, soaking wet. So you got these behemoths, 300 pounds running after him. How many bones is he going to break this season? I want to see if he can really hang with the big boys themselves. So I think this is going to be like a rebuilding year for Carolina. So I've got them dead last.
Okay.
I think my top 3. I've got Atlanta winning the division. Only reason why I say that right now is because they have a running back core that I feel like could really run the tables in the NFC South. Now, am I going to say they're going to beat them offensively? Sure. Defensively, I think that's kind of like their missing point. So I think they'll put up the points to where their defense can hopefully go like a 3 and out, get them to punt, whatnot like that. So I have Atlanta being 1. I have New Orleans at 2, and then I have the Bucks at 3, and of course Carolina's dead last. So I think this is the year where it's going to be rebuilding.
Okay. All right, Troy, how about you?
This is tough. I'm not quite as hard on Carolina as TJ is here. I think they got a lot of nice pieces. Obviously, it is going to boil down to how Rice can do. I don't see them last in this division. I see them fighting for second here in this division. Possibly, I see Atlanta and Carolina fighting for second in this division. So I don't really know if I'm stuck on a for sure order here yet. I think the Saints have the best roster. I think they have the best defense.
Yep.
I think Carr is, he's not going to light the world on fire, but I think he's an upgrade from Dalton. So I do think the Saints are going to win this division. Like I said, I think the Falcons and Panthers fight off for second and third here. Probably both a little bit just below the 500 mark. I'm going to say 7-10, something like that. They'll probably be. And then the Bucks. Oh, I don't know, man. I think that other than the receiver position, I think that roster is not good at all, to be honest.
Yeah.
I think they could be struggling to hit, and they might be competing for first seed with the Cardinals. Maybe 4 or 5 wins. And I'll tell you what, also, I think Todd Bowles has proved who he is as a head coach, and it's not a very good one. So, yeah, I'm gonna put them bringing up the rear there in the division.
I feel like Todd Bowles might be one of those guys that's a good defensive coordinator,
yep.
And just isn't meant to be a head coach. Yep. Ben, how are you back with us here?
I am, thankfully, yes.
All right. So what are your thoughts on the NFC? So I don't know if you heard TJ. So TJ thinks Atlanta is going to win. Carolina is going to be dead last. And then obviously Troy, like you just said, Saints are going to win and Tampa is going to be last. So what are your thoughts?
I mean, looking at how the league goes this year in general, the quarterback kind of rules who you predict a little bit, right? So the best quarterback in the division is Derek Carr. It's not close. Bryce Young could be good. He could be great. We don't know yet, but he's not going to be great this year. And this roster is not great this year for the Panthers. So I think looking at it right now, the Saints should be the logical pick for anyone looking at this with any kind of discerning eye. You have a amazing run game on that offense. You have a great defense. They also still have Derek Carr, the best quarterback in the division. So you have a team that should logically run away with that division this year. It's to Troy's point before, I think the second place is where it gets interesting. I mean, because right now you look at Baker Mayfield's trying to reclaim his career, Kyle Trask, both fighting for that job in Tampa Bay. But to Troy's point just a little bit ago, that roster, it's not what it was a few years ago. But they can help buoy some of the less proven quarterbacks, but that way, or maybe Baker is what he looks like. Maybe he is just not that good. But I think that overall, I agree the assessment Tampa Bay is probably last in the division, but I'm going to put Carolina in contention for that. I think Atlanta is kind of that complete wild card for that division for me. Like they could be winning the division and they could be fighting for the top 5 pick in the draft. They're just there's that much variability right now looking at that roster. I think they're going the right direction, but that's an I think statement, not an I know statement. I think Des Ridder has to progress off of what we saw last year. He can't look like that again. We need Cincinnati Des Ridder, not rookie year Des Ridder. Heineke's kind of that. Again, he's the wild card here. Heineke has won games for a bad Washington team. So we have a team in Atlanta I think is more talented than what he's playing with in Washington. So does Heineke get a shot, and does he kind of help them, I guess, progress that way?
Yeah.
I don't think that anyone in this division goes past the wild card round in the playoffs. I think whoever makes it is still going to get shut down. But if the other piece to look at with the Saints is if Michael Thomas does come back and play, if he is actually healthy this year, look out for Derek Carr to have that like renaissance year, all of Brett Favre to Minnesota. That could just light the world on fire.
So now then, I guess the big question, and yeah, I would agree with, the two of you, Troy and Ben. I think, and I believe Marco's hot take earlier today was the Bears and the Saints in the NFC Championship game. So we'll let Marco have his hot take there.
He might have got out of work early and hit the bottle.
Yeah. I'm wondering. So I'm not going to go that far, but I guess my question would be, and I do think the Saints are going to win the division, also. But are any of the teams this year going to end up over 500?
I think the division winner will. I think that's it.
Yeah. Okay.
I think you can see Atlanta, New Orleans both over 500.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Atlanta was one of those teams that came out last year. I remember like kind of out of nowhere. I don't think anyone expected them to be even close to, of course it was a terrible division last year too, but I don't think anyone expected Atlanta to be 7-10. I mean, and
right.
I think at one point they were even over 500 and it was like, where the hell did this come from? So yeah, that was interesting, but, okay. So I guess that, I don't really think we need to dwell on that division.
I think that whole division, except the Bucks won at 8-9 and everybody else was 7-10. Isn't that right?
Yeah. Everyone else was. I mean, and it was literally like with 2 weeks or 3 weeks to go. I think Carolina like every team had a chance to.
Last week of the season, they would have won the division.
Yeah, exactly. I was just gonna say like there were. I think Carolina was. Yeah, I think every team was in it up until like maybe the last 3 weeks or 2 weeks of the season. It was like, wow, I guess that it does help that you're playing your division 6 times, teams in your crappy division 6 times. Yeah. So anyway, okay. So let's, we'll go again. We'll wait till next week, maybe talk about SummerSlam. And I know that, that TJ has some thoughts.
I do.
Yeah. But I don't, let's not ruin it for Ben.
Ben, before we leave, Ben, this is for you. Out of respect, you guys did beat us today.
There we go. Looking real good. But no, I just want to rewind for a second. I'm sorry, I missed the conversation before, but the hat looks good on you, by the way. It's a very good look for you. But as far as the college football realignment goes, where are you coming out on all this, and what's your take on the situation? What do you expect going forward, I guess?
Who is that directed at? Somebody in general? Or?
Sorry, at TJ. I wanted to kind of hear his thoughts on the football player.
Oh yeah, he hadn't piped in before, so yeah.
So
go ahead, TJ.
I think it might have been you, Ben, or it was Marco, and I'm gonna have to go back, and then next week I'm gonna pinpoint exactly who it was, but and I'm pretty sure we all agreed upon it. It is going to be a 4 mega league, like 4 mega divisions in college football. And the way that I see it is, yes, you want to get these, you want to keep the SEC, because the SEC has just been a powerhouse for years. No one's ever going to touch them. They make the most money for college football. Plain and simple, boom. If you're top tier, you're going to the SEC. I feel like they're going to keep the Big 12. Big 12 is definitely going to be around. Big 10 is going to be around. But you're looking at these other, ACC. You can't really call it Atlantic Coast Conference if you've got teams like out in the Midwest. It's one of those hard things to really say. So I feel like there's going to be a conference that drops or get renamed. And then that'll be like your 4th mega conference, where you're going to see teams like Air Force and Army, being, yes, they are service academies, but they can put up fights against great teams. Join something like this. And then you're going to see these like underwhelming teams. For instance, Navy. I mean, Navy really, they've been very lackluster. And I mean, the biggest game, I think, besides the Army-Navy game this year is the Navy-Notre Dame game in like 7 days or something like that. So I have a massive feeling that, it's going to be 4 mega conferences, and then the way they split up the teams is going to be very, I guess, biased on what regions are going to make the money the most. So, in my eyes, I think, it's going to be honestly a shit show until everything truly gets done the right way.
So interesting. And going back like 15 years roughly ago, of all magazines, Forbes had an article about college football. And that's kind of when streaming was kind of coming of age, and kind of Netflix became more of a streaming service, and things kind of started going that direction. And the indicator back then, even that 15 years ago, was eventually we're going to see essentially one mega division or conference kind of emerge from all of this. Like the top 50 profitable teams will be in this league, and everyone else is kind of taking the crumbs.
Mm-hmm.
And we're kind of seeing that. We've even heard references to that from some of the coaches recently, saying this could go a direction where the top 64 teams all separate, make their own division again, and more or less realign what Division I actually is, what FCS actually is, and so on and so forth. So I think it's interesting, TJ, kind of hearing. I think it's interesting seeing all of our takes kind of come together on this, and kind of I think we're all on the right page.
Yeah,
on the same page. This is all going to keep shuffling until we see that cream remove itself, essentially.
Yeah, I agree 100%.
And let the rest kind of stay as it is.
I think the big wild card, and Ben, you've said this a bunch of times too, is where does Notre Dame stand on this? Can they stay independent through all this? I don't think they can. I really don't.
There's no way. There's just no way. Unless everyone goes into a spot where it's that open pool of 64 and conferences kind of go away, I don't see anything happening. And I think Marco pointed out in a separate conversation too, was the SEC is going to be the biggest linchpin here. Because the SEC has no motivation to change, because they hold all the cards right now.
Right.
But the Big Ten's shuffling all of the deck on everybody, trying to overtake the SEC. And so that's why you see moves for USC, Oregon, Washington, these unconventional acquisitions. Even go back to Nebraska, 11, 12 years ago.
Right.
Like, these
Rutgers,
are all non-conventional moves.
That was all the same time. Maryland.
But it's all about the money.
Yep.
They grabbed the DMV market with Maryland. They grabbed the New York market with Rutgers. And then you throw all those pieces in here, it all adds up. Nebraska is a nationwide fan base. And there still are enough of us old guys who watched, the Wishbone, that we still think of Nebraska as being a great school. They haven't been great in 3 decades.
Since Crouch, right?
Yeah.
Right. So, anyway, sorry to rewind the conversation. I want to kind of get TJ's feeling now, because I haven't really heard it much before, so I wanted to see where we're at.
Yeah, no big deal. It's to me, I find it right now a really fascinating time. I know there, like I said, a lot of purists are like just thinking this is going to be the end of college football. I'm like, just settle down. I mean, it's
Right.
going through a transition, and but you're still going to have the the rivalry games. I really don't see those ending. And I know that was one of the big things. Like people in Oregon were saying, well, if Oregon goes over to goes to the Big Ten, you won't have Oregon State. You can still have Oregon State, just like Iowa still has Iowa State. I mean, these things can still be worked in.
Florida State.
Exactly. I mean,
all of them.
They like there might be some teams that don't have as many rivalry games, but I mean, you're still going to be able to play your main rival, like whatever your main rival is. You'll still be playing them. I mean, so you'll still have that. I mean, and to me, that's one of the cool parts about college football is that you see some of these rivalries, like, I mean, like a Wisconsin, Minnesota, which I mean is never like a 1-2 matchup, but it goes back like 100 years or whatever it is. I mean, it's some insane amount of time, and I mean that
back to the slab of bacon.
Yeah, exactly. That's right. The slab of bacon. Yeah, I forgot about that. So,
bacon is the best.
Yeah. Thank you.
Agreed.
Bacon is
Agreed.
Thanks. My daughter chiming in. Okay. All right. So why don't we wrap up with the question that I had, and I posed it. Ben, you weren't with us for the before we started the show, but with the Hall of Fame induction ceremony happening this past Saturday, my question was, and I meant to post it in the group, but I forgot to today. So, like I said, if people are watching, listening, go ahead and put your oh, sorry. my apologies. Never mind. So the question is, what player, coach, or combination thereof is not in the Pro Football Hall of Fame that you feel should be? And I have two in mind.
So do I.
They might actually be the same. God, Tiny.
I think the Jets and the Packers.
Yeah, well, that's not even wow.
Hey, we need
This is why-
around here now.
yeah.
That is awesome.
Put the whole damn team in the Hall of Fame.
That's right. Oh my God. Just go. Okay. Yep. Go. Okay. Go. Anyway. All right. So So Troy, why don't we start with you? Like I said, so why don't we just one or two, and
I mean, I got one, and it's a big one, and it's bothered me for years. And I know it's going to be biased. Whatever, you can say whatever you want to say, but there is no damn reason Steve Tasker is not in the Hall of Fame. 5-time first team All-Pro special teamer, 7-time Pro Bowler as a special teamer. I mean, we're starting to put kickers and punters in the Hall of Fame. This guy changed the way special teams was played. He was a 1993 Pro Bowl MVP. I mean, yeah, I know the Pro Bowl means nothing now, but back then they freaking played the game.
Yeah.
He had a blocked punt, a blocked field goal, returned a kick, and forced a fumble on a punt, on a kickoff return. I'm sorry. Like, I mean, this guy was just different. He changed special teams. People game planned for this guy. Like you can ask other coordinators about when they played the Bills, they were game planning for Steve Tasker on the other side of the field as a special teamer. I mean, that's just not heard of. And I don't think it's right that just because he's a special teamer, he's not in the Hall of Fame. They say special teams is 1/3 of the game. Well, then why did they not get graded the same way?
Okay. All right. TJ, how about you?
So I've got two.
Okay.
Mine are, I don't know. I've watched them a lot, and one was actually here. So my first one is Steve Smith Sr. I mean, that dude came out of Utah. Was told he would never make it. He was going to be more of a punt returner, kick returner, and became probably one of, I'm not going to say the best wide receiver in the NFL, but the best small receiver in the NFL. The dude, he was amazing. And dude, he talked the talk and he walked the walk. I mean, he kept, if he ran his mouth, he sure as hell backed it up. I think that's one of, he has to be in the Hall of Fame. And when he does, I'm going to go watch him. I mean, I watched him when I was little to when he came here to Baltimore, and it was amazing to watch him. And my second one that it was kind of hit or miss. I kept thinking about this one is Jared Allen. Jared Allen, I thought, when I was playing youth and high school football, I actually took the number 69 in high school because of Jared Allen. And I grew a little.
Yeah.
But no, I had the number 69 like my freshman year, and I got
Mm-hmm.
a wig at the Halloween store and dressed up like Jared Allen for football games.
That's awesome.
Nice.
Because that was my game was just like his, and then he's just one of those guys that I always looked up to, and he was such a stud on that DN. And then the fact that towards the tail end of his career, he did go to a Super Bowl with the Panthers. He lost, but he had, I feel like, a great career as a defensive end. And there's not a lot of DNs that make it to the Hall of Fame because either you don't have all these accolades or you're not in. So those are definitely my two. There's plenty more, but I think those are my main two that I would say need to be in the Hall of Fame.
Okay, Ben, do you have any? Otherwise, I can go first.
I actually do.
Okay.
I'm going to take back a little off of Troy. I don't have names for this one, but I want to review kickers and punters entirely because I think that there's a lot of guys here that we've missed out on. I mean, Ray Guy was the first one we got, which is very deserving, and I know may he rest in peace. He got it passed recently, and but I think we need to look at punters and kickers as a whole and like what they've done for the game and start looking at this. But it goes to my first name I want to throw out there, though, is Devin Hester. And I'm saying this as a Packers fan. I mean, Devin Hester was an absolute thorn in our flesh, and talking about game planning. You knew Hester was going to score on us. It was a matter of when, not if.
Yeah.
And so that's a guy that, to me, the threat that he brought was as much or worse than even like playing against Jerry Rice. And I'm not saying that he's the same as Jerry Rice. Don't hear that the wrong way. But I'm saying the threat that he posed was as severe that way, to where you as opposing team, you felt that fear. Coaching wise, I'm going to go Homer on this one and go Mike Holmgren.
Yep. That's one of mine too. Yeah.
Mike Holmgren is the guy that, with Brett Favre, with the whole group, really brought Green Bay back into relevance where we need to be. And that's, we haven't left it since. Hey, Ron Wolf's part of that. Ron Wolf's gone in. Like all these pieces, I think Holmgren's that next piece of that puzzle has to go in. My third name I'm going to throw out there is just, again,
real quick before you move on, Ben.
Sorry. Yeah.
And he also helped build Seattle to where they are now. They were shit before he got there. So
Now wait, is Ron Wolf? Did he get inducted in as a GM or not?
My understanding is yes. I didn't fact check that, but I want to say yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
all right. Because if not, he should be in there. But yeah. Okay. So go ahead. You had one more, I think, too.
Because he's on the Ring of Honor inside Lambeau, and all those are Hall of Famers. So he's in that ring. So I'm assuming that he's in.
Okay.
So the other one I want to throw out there is another Packer player, and that's Gilbert Brown. As far as the Gravedigger was a different kind of player, and it seemed like he went away for a little bit and came back, and he was Gilbert Brown again.
Yeah,
like he wore that Packers jersey the right way. He had his. Tight. I mean, every kid very tight. every one of us. You pull a flag in a flag football game at 10 years old, you're doing the Gravedigger. You just pull the flag, you can tackle a guy, but you're doing the Gravedigger. That's what we did. So I think he was a guy who influenced, was on a great team, and has some good numbers to go with it and some great years to go with it. I think he'd be a guy I would consider for the Hall of Fame in time if we looked at it, if we really reviewed what was happening, the influence he had. All
right. Now you took one of mine with Holmgren, and I want to just piggyback on what you said too about, like, Troy, what you said about Seattle and everything else. I don't know if you guys have ever, or if you watched any of those NFL networks that has a Football Life, and they did Holmgren's a while, like a couple seasons ago, I think. And the impact that he had, even if you go back to look at his coaching days when he was a quarterbacks coach at San Fran, and the impact that he had with Joe Montana and Steve Young. I mean, Steve Young in that documentary, basically gives Mike Holmgren credit for making him the quarterback that he was. I mean, and that's a Hall of Fame quarterback, So he's worked with two Hall of Fame quarterbacks, a third one with Favre. And then, I mean, Hasselbeck, had some great seasons in Seattle, even though they never won the Super Bowl. So, but he's not in the Hall of Fame. But he made Hasselbeck who he was, as a quarterback in Seattle. The fact that he's not in there, I think, is crap. And I and that maybe sound like a homer, but I will say this: when he went to Seattle, I hated that guy. I was not a fan. Because I really felt like that last season that he was in Green Bay, he was looking ahead to something else, And maybe he was, maybe he wasn't. I don't know. I'm over it now, but I'm just saying. I'm saying, as a Packer fan, it sounds like it's a homer pick, but. I really, kind of like Favre. I mean, when Favre left and went to Minnesota, I hated that guy too, and I mean now I'm over it too. But go ahead, Troy.
I think when Holmgren left Green Bay, it was very much like the Parcells thing, like the they want me to coach the players, but they don't want me to pick out the groceries. It was that type of thing. And
well, yeah, and I think what as a Packer fan, like looking back on it now, what frustrates me is that a couple, and I love Ron Wolf. My dad used to say, "In Wolf we trust." Back when and I mean my dad like absolutely loved Ron Wolf, and I kind of feel like it would have been great to see Holmgren stay on. And like if Ron Wolf knew, and I don't know, maybe he didn't know ahead of time when he was going to be leaving or when he was going to retire or whatever. I don't know all the ins and outs of how that came about. But I believe, and Ben, you can correct me if I'm wrong here, I believe it was Mike Sherman that ended up taking over, and he was a GM coach, was he not?
So we had Ray Rose between there. We
had but was Wolf still the GM at that time? Or who took over after Wolf? Wasn't it Mike Sherman?
So when Sherman was at first, Wolf was at first, but when he retired, they gave the GM spot to Sherman, and that's when Mike Sherman changed. So a lot of if you talk to even people inside the organization, they talk about Mike Sherman going from being a very likable, like guy's guy to being just extremely stressed out and kind of a jerk when he got that GM role on top of it, and that's where it really went downhill. So to your point, I don't remember the timeline exactly. I remember the Ray Rose year hurt my feelings. But.
Yeah, I try to block that out, even though they were only 8. They were 8 and 8,
Mike
so
Sherman
it wasn't like they were pouring.
Did eventually become a GM head coach.
Yeah, and I just remember thinking to myself, like, you couldn't have given that to Mike Holmgren instead, and because I just never felt like Mike Sherman really earned that.
No.
I mean, and I like Mike Sherman as a coach and everything, but I just felt like why? Okay, you gave it to this guy, and Holmgren was left because he wanted to do that, and and whatever. Yep. But so here's my player, and this is a homer, but I have a story behind it. Sterling Sharp, and I know Sterling and Mike Holmgren are both eligible right now. I think they might even be finalists for next year's Hall of Fame. Sterling through like the veterans committee or whatever. But I heard some stats a while back that had Sterling not gotten the neck injury and didn't have to leave after 7 seasons and maybe even lasted 10. Like if you look at his average numbers, the numbers he would have put up were amazing. And I don't remember them off the top of my head, but they were impressive. And for what he did at that time when, he started with Magic at quarterback. And then, he had Favre, but he didn't have Favre for a real super long time. I mean, he put up some amazing numbers with a guy that wasn't a Hall of Fame quarterback by any stretch of the imagination. I will say this though. He was one of the biggest pricks as a fan that I've ever met in my entire life.
Wow.
And, and I hate saying that as a Packer fan, but that guy, and I'll just tell a quick story here. There's a show that they do every football season called The Fifth Quarter with a guy named Mark Daniels. Ben will know who I'm talking about, but and it's been going on for like 30 years. And back at that time, my dad always, we'd always go to the show. It's always at a local restaurant, every season, that kind of thing. And so we'd go and have dinner. We watched the show, and he was in probably like his 2nd or 3rd year. So you're thinking maybe he's trying to, you would think you'd be trying to endear yourself to the fans and whatnot. And I went up and mind you, this was not back when like memorabilia was a big thing yet. It hadn't exploded, there wasn't. So like I went up with a napkin because during the commercial breaks, you could go up and talk to the player and get autographs and shake their hand and whatever, get pictures. And every player did that. That's how the show went. I walked up during a commercial break. He was the only one there, or I was the only one up there. I had a napkin. Again, it wasn't like a football card I was trying to get signed so I could make a ton of money. It was just sign this napkin. And he gave me, if looks could kill, I would have been dead like 10 times over. I mean, he gave me the dirty, and I was like 10 years old. I mean, I wasn't some adult going up there. I was a kid, and I'm like, dude, he ended up giving me the autograph, but it was pretty damn reluctant. And I think it was only because, you know, the host of the show was sitting right next to him. He didn't want to seem like a total jerk. But I was just like, dude, you know, for somebody who you're playing a kid's game for crying, like you're playing a game that most of us men would play for free. I mean, TJ practically did play for free, I'm sure, when you were playing some before you retired. You weren't making, you know, I mean, this is like some of these guys that think they're entitled. Just I could go off again, but I won't. We'll wrap it up here. But you know, it just that kind of, you know, if I was an adult, totally I could kind of see it, but yeah, he's the only one I had ever met during that show who was like that or had that kind of reactions. I never. He also knocked over my bike one time during a training camp practice, but I won't go into. That's a whole other story. So anyway, so all right. Well, why don't you know what, Ben? When are you heading back now?
I fly back
Oh,
tomorrow, so it'll be
tomorrow. Yep.
9 o'clock here. So it's equivalent to 2 a.m. tomorrow. 2 a.m. Saturday in Wisconsin. I'm leaving here, and then I fly all day.
Okay.
I get into Appleton right around 4:30 p.m. Central Time. So I got a really long day of travel.
All right. All right. Well, you have safe travels. Hopefully it doesn't get delayed or anything like that. I know I was watching the news today. They were saying a lot of tourists are actually staying at the hotel or at the airport, sleeping over in the airport because they had to evacuate their hotel and things like that in Maui. So yeah, just stay safe. Hopefully things are kind of calming down over there.
Yeah. Definitely pray for Maui, guys. It's definitely, they're going to need it here. It's a long road to go back where they want to be. Need to be.
For sure.
Bummer.
Troy, you got any big plans this weekend?
Well, my son's birthday was last weekend, so this weekend's my daughter's birthday. They're like they're about 9 days apart. So
nice.
So yeah, so she'll just be having a couple friends come over for a sleepover, that type of thing, on Saturday into Sunday. So that's about it.
Cool. All right, TJ, how about you? Going to another baseball game or two? No.
No, they're actually on a Western swing starting on Friday.
Okay.
But no, my youth football organization that buddy of mine or my buddy's dad and I started, we have our first scrimmage this weekend.
Oh,
so
nice.
We're gonna see how badly we get our asses handed to us being a new organization, but it'll be fun.
Yeah, it's all about learning and having fun at that age. So what age is that again?
So I have the 13, 14U kids. So they're
okay.
high schoolers.
Okay.
But I've got 4, 5 kids that got cut from the JV team that are on my football team, and they are let's just say they're dogs, and they are very pissed off right now.
Good.
Good. Yeah.
That's always a good thing.
Give them something to play for. I mean, that guy named Michael Jordan had that happen to him too. So
yeah.
Anyway. All right, guys. Well, you guys, everyone have a great weekend. Ben, travel safe, and we'll see everybody next week.
Sounds great. Take care, guys.
See you.